Welcome to Take Charge with Dr. Chichi, where nurses take control, break barriers, and build a future of financial freedom and career success. Whether you're burned out, ready to level up, or looking for the blueprint to thrive, you're in the right place. It's time to lead, love, and win because your future starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Chichi.
Hello everyone. Welcome to this episode of Take Charge with Dr. Chichi. This is your friend Dr. Chichi. Well. This show is where nurses and healthcare professionals reclaim their peace, power, and financial future. Whether you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or simply waiting for more, we are here to help you lead, grow, and thrive. The title of this episode is Mistakes, Mindset, and Mastery, Empowering Nurses Through Self-Care with Audrey Boyce. And the goal of this episode is to discuss key causes of burnout and overwhelm in nursing profession, break down common mistakes nurses make while struggling with profession, and explore how self-care and leadership can transform the nurse's personal and professional life. We're also going to highlight the role of coaching in community for sustainable nurse empowerment and also offer practical tools, reflections, and mindset shifts to help nurses stay charged. I have the honor of introducing a wonderful lady. Her name is Audrey Boyce. She is the founder and CEO of Audrey Boyce LLC, Leadership and Wellness Coaching Services. She's a registered nurse for 3 decades and a national board certified health and wellness coach. She has spent many years coaching nurses in prioritizing their well-being, preventing and recovering from burnout, and developing their leadership skills. I have the honor to welcome Miss Audrey Boyce to the show. Welcome, Miss Audrey. Thank you so much for coming here.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Chiki. This is such an amazing platform you have, and I feel humbled. I feel proud that I could be here alongside you, friends, both coming from burnout leadership in the nurses industry, the professional life that I'm today at Audrey Boyce. So I am really excited to be here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have you here. Man, I was so excited when my friend told me, "Oh, I'm gonna talk to her." And when you told me you were coming, I was so excited because, man, I know you're the powerhouse that can help nurses out there and have been helping nurses out there. So, could you tell us more about yourself and what inspired your mission to help overwhelmed nurses?
Where do I start? I want to start from becoming a nurse, I think.
Oh yeah.
That I think frames where I am today. At the age of 8, I helped a blind man cross a very busy intersection. And I felt so happy that I made a difference. That is what inspired me to become a nurse.
Wow.
So fast forward, went to nursing school and graduated. And then I went to work for a hospital. And I was excited to make a difference.
Wow.
But 15 years into my practice, after working many long hours in caring for countless patients, I found myself feeling extremely tired and fatigued.
Hmm.
Even on my days off, I was dragging myself around. So one day, while on my way to work, I was so exhausted. I didn't want to even go to work. I was dreading my shift. And from that time, I started to notice that even while I was at work, it felt as though I was falling apart.
Hmm.
It's there to help patients, but I was falling apart on the inside. But one day when I clocked out, that was my defining moment. I knew I was burnout. I knew I had to do something. My joy had gone. And I think that was when I decided I had to make a difference. And being burnout It's not something that happens overnight. It was coming, it was happening probably for months, maybe even years, but I didn't notice it until that moment. And so from that experience, I was able to work with a coach to recover. And from that burnout, I've turned it into a blueprint now to help teach nurses how to prevent burnout, take control of their health, and not give up their career that they work hard for and that they so love.
Wow, wow. I can relate to that story. I mean, I know how it was for me, and that's why when I took charge, that's why I started this show to help other nurses, that are experiencing the same thing, or even nurses that haven't experienced that to know what to do not to experience that. So, what are some of the biggest mistakes you've observed nurses making when trying to manage burnout?
Gosh, well, I'm going to start with this one that I have seen happen over the years. And, even in my personal life, I got to say, normalizing burnout. That's the mistake I find that nurses make when they think that, oh, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed. That is not normal that you should be feeling so tired and overwhelmed every day that you go to work. That when you go to bed and you wake up in the morning, you're dreading going to work. That's not normal.
Wow.
Or when you sleep and wake up, you're tired. That's not normal. You see, burnout is like a slow leak in that faucet, a slow leak that if you
Mm,
don't take care of it, it creates a flood. And that's exactly how I felt that morning when I clocked out from that 12-hour shift. Like I was standing in the midst of a flood. But because of self care, the water did recede and I was able to take charge. So I like your branding statement, taking charge. I was able to take charge of
yeah.
my life once I made self care a priority.
Yeah. Self-care is very important. And I want to ask you, why is self-care more than just a buzzword? And what does it look like in real life for a nurse?
Yes, self care is more than a buzzword. Self care is how do I take control of my life? How do I take control of my profession? Self care is not things like manicure, pedicure, and massage, which in after 12-hour shift, a pedicure is a beautiful thing. Self care is making a priority to take care of my physical, emotional, and mental well being. So things like gratitude is a self care because that allows me to manage my stress. Things like mindfulness
Mm,
because it allows me to feel my body, being aware of the present moment. That is self care.
wow.
Things like setting boundaries are self care because I know my limitation, I know my boundary. And so when I say no, it's not that I'm being selfish, it's not that I'm not a team player, but it's because I know my boundary. Self compassion is another self care activity. The list goes on. And so, what we didn't think about self care maybe years ago now is a self care activity because these are the activities that prevent burnout and help
Yeah.
us to live a healthy life and help us to have joy in our nursing career.
Yeah. When you were saying setting boundaries, I remember number two in your book, Empowering Nurses Through Self-Care, but we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you define the link between personal wellness and leadership success?
Oh my God. I think they both intertwine because I talk about
Mhm.
leading well. And the word well there meaning how am I modeling for those who are interested in me or those who I'm going to call my followers? How am I modeling this well being? How am I modeling taking care of myself? So, leaders, managers, supervisors, I mean, whether it's a positional leadership or you just as nurses, we're all leaders, right? So whether it's positional or just leadership as a competency, I believe when you practice and you influence others, you must be doing it in your life. You must be able to influence your own life. Like John Maxwell said, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So,
Hmm.
how do I influence others if I can't influence my own life? How can I lead well if I am falling apart inside? So I think leadership and wellness are intertwined, and I don't believe you can really take away the wellness part from being a leader, because if you're going to lead well, you must be well.
In other words, take charge before
Of
you can
course,
lead.
it comes back to that. I love it.
Yeah. So, what
Yeah.
transformation have you seen in nurses, right? The nurses that you worked with,
Mm.
when they go through the coaching program, what kind of transformation have you seen them go through?
Yes. You know,
Because to me, it takes courage for someone to know, like you just talked about burnout as seeping in. Like the way I describe it is like, how the pipe will burst, and then you
mhm,
just have this water dropping, drip, drip, and then by the time you know it, there's flood all over the house or the carpet is soaked.
exactly.
That's the way I describe burnout. And sometimes you're going through it, you don't even know it.
You
So
don't
just
know.
coaching those nurses, what transformation have you seen in them?
Very good. I like what you just said. Sometimes you don't even know. That's why I believe mindfulness. I'm a mindfulness facilitator. I really teach mindfulness, that you become aware of the present moment. How am I feeling? How am I showing up? What does my body need in this moment? And that's what mindfulness is. And so having um, that awareness that this is what my body needs now is something that I always work with my clients as number one. So, some transformational stories. Oh my gosh, where do I start? I want to start that I worked with a young lady that came to me. She was gaining weight, not sleeping, and her blood pressure was spiking up.
Going up.
Yes. And she had three things that I would consider. She was pretty much in metabolic syndrome.
Mm.
She was not healthy metabolically speaking. And so she knew everything, but was she able to implement it? No. I start every person that I coach from a place of strength. I don't tell them to go and do anything extraordinary. We start small steps, one focus, sometimes two, and then we build on that. For example, the nurse, after 6 weeks, she was sleeping better. She
Awesome.
started to lose weight and her blood pressure came down. What did she do different that she didn't wasn't doing before? Number one, she was in a gym and she
Mm.
kept going to the gym even though she had membership. So I shared with her, I said, well, maybe let's look at that whole exercise routine. Maybe you can be doing it at home. So you're finding more time, because even though she was paying for membership, she was not going regularly. So there was an extra level of guilt now on her. So once she gave up that membership, guess what? She started practicing exercising more at home. So she went from going once or twice a month to the gym to now practicing 3 times a day at home. Giving
Amazing.
yourself the liberty to say, there is something I need to let go in order for other things to flourish. So she started flourishing, exercising 3 times a week with a YouTube video that I use myself to work out. She had the accountability. That was me. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to be working out at such and such a time. Join me, put on your YouTube, and let's do it together. Oftentimes, people fail when they don't have support.
Support.
Or if something is not tailored to them, it's like everybody wants to join the gym at the first of the year, and we know by the 13th of February what happens,
New Year
right?
resolution and then none
Okay.
by week
So
two.
exactly. I give them the 13th of February. I'm generous. So the weight started to fall off. She was less stressed because she wasn't paying for a membership that she wasn't using, right? And guess what? The coffee to keep her energy going, she didn't need that anymore later in the day. That was interrupting her sleep. You see the vicious cycle that was
Mm,
going on. So now she's working out, she's having more energy, she's not falling asleep in the evening
mm,
and interrupting her night sleep. So that's one story. And what it's
wow.
all about, I can go from one thing to the next. Even with diet, we make it very simple. It's nothing, it's not rocket science, and we don't make it rocket science. Staying and getting healthy and staying healthy is very simple, but the part is it must be tailored to the individual. It must be very um, measurable and must be achievable.
Mm,
Right? And the support is what is the
smart
icing on
goal.
the cake. Yes,
That's
the,
good. So,
exactly. So the
yes,
support is so important.
yes. So, what does taking charge mean to you personally or and professionally?
Oh my gosh. It means how do I show up every day for
Mm,
myself and for those that I'm trusted with, whether it be a client or in some people's situation might be a patient. So that's what it means taking charge. Knowing my body, starting with everything with the awareness. Where are I today? What do I need more of? What do I need less of? What am I willing to give up? What am I ready to embark on? So that's what it means taking charge
that's good.
personally and professionally.
Wow. So, what do you hope readers walk away with after reading your books? I know you've written three books, right? I bought three of them,
Mm.
and I'm enjoying it.
Yes. Well, there each book um, kind of speak a little bit different about maybe some of the same topics, but in terms of the top 10 mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, the top 10 mistakes. One of the things that I hope people take away is that they can set boundaries. That's one of the things from that book. I mean, they can set boundaries and they can keep it. And it's okay to say no, because no is not having, no is not, well, you're not a compassionate person. Actually, it's the opposite. Is that because you're compassionate to yourself, you know exactly where you need to draw your limit. It talk about also how to reframe situations that you might be in. We know nursing is a rewarding profession, but it's also very challenging at times. But even on the toughest day, you have the power to be someone speaking of hope. So while you're going through those difficult days at work, not to say it's not difficult, you address it, but what could you do? Maybe take a minute or two to do some extra deep breathing. Or while washing your hands, do a mindfulness practice.
Mm,
Or start your day with a gratitude practice. These are simple things that nurses can do that will help them to prevent overwhelm and stress from taking over their lives.
wow.
And for
Amazing.
the other book, Empowering Nurse Through Self-Care, is basically just laying out that how self-care is so manageable. Self-care is not selfish and how we should make self-care a priority. And it talks about, gives you tools, tips, strategies, how to make self-care an activity of daily living. And you don't feel like you have to go to a gym or go to a spa to get self-care.
Yeah. So when I was reading Empowering Nurses Through Self-Care, number two, setting boundaries. And I remembered when I used to when I used to walk on the floor, and I walked in the mother baby department then. I mean, sometimes you don't take a break because you have like you probably have four C-section patient and the new vag coming, like five couplets. So you have the mom and you have the baby. And even when the fifth patient is coming and you say, this is too much, I don't know if I can handle it, then they'll tell you, oh, there's no other place we can take the patient. We can take the patient too. So then you end up getting all those patients. And I'm thinking in that situation, if you say no, they're gonna say you're refusing you're
Yeah,
refusing your assignment, and that's ground for firing.
right. And well, that's a good point you bring up because when I talk about self-care, I also have to talk about the flip side of self-care. That's
Hmm.
the systems that we work in. And oftentimes, those systems do not support our self care. That's why I believe we should become not just self care champions, but we should advocate for change within our healthcare industry, within our health workplace, because
Hmm.
a nurse should not have to choose on a daily basis showing up and caring for the patients and not being able to take a break. Now, I know in times when there might be an emergency, that's different. But on a daily basis, to say, well, okay, I'm not able to take a break, that's because you are running short of staff. There's not enough staff to support what's going on.
That's true.
And that should not be okay. So that's where I talk about the flip side of self-care because yes, sometimes even if you have a chance that, you do self-care and then you come to work, but there's no way to practice self-care at work because it's just running, running, running. You can't even take a break. I hear you. I hear you.
Yep. So,
And I
mhm.
said, during those times, we have to create space when we wash our hands. That needs to be a self-care activity more than just a infection control activity. As you wash your hands, you can make that a self-care moment where you're deep breathing and getting a reset for the next
I
task.
never thought about it that way because we wash our hands all the time. It's
Yes,
like when you get to a patient's room, sometimes you probably wash your hand up to 4 times before you get out from that room. I never thought about it as self-care,
of
you know.
course. Yes, you can make those activities into self-care. So we explore a whole new way of how self-care, when you check in,
Yep.
you're given reports, we can set up times just like we give report. What if we take 30 seconds or 1 minute to share with our colleagues one thing we're grateful for and start the shift that way?
Wow.
What if we did that? That's another form of self-care. So it's not something that is not attainable. It's something we can incorporate in our lives. We just got to think about it and how it will show up. And that's when I talk about self-care can be activities of daily living.
Mm. So the way you just described it feels like washing hands, little steps that
Yes,
gets into a big wellness stuff.
exactly.
Little steps here and there, and by the time you know it, you're already taking little breaks that makes you not to be too exhausted.
That's so correct. In between patients' room, that could be a self-care moment.
Hmm.
Reset, and especially if you're leaving a patient's room that just was so difficult, and then you're going into the next patient's room. That could be a moment to reset.
I'm telling you, sometimes, then I'll be like, have I been to the bathroom?
Hmm.
Sometimes you get so busy that you forget that you haven't been to the bathroom or even had a sip of water. But
Exactly.
the points that you're making now is just like, whoa, that makes a lot of sense. I think that this will help a lot of people listening.
Of course. And that's the whole goal of the book. And then there's a workbook that goes with it.
Yes.
And there's a facilitator guide. So a group of nurses can come together and do it, or you can just request my service and I can come and work with the staff for 12 weeks, 12 sessions. It don't have to be 12 weeks, it could be 12 sessions over a period of time. I know a VA hospital in Minnesota just completed the 12 session book. where they went through it as a group, and it was over a period of, I think, 6 months.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yep. It's really a wonderful workbook. I was going through mine, and it's really, really good. You did an awesome job there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So what is the one belief about burnout or leadership that you hope to challenge or reframe during this conversation?
Well, one of the things that it's normal, it's not. So that's one of the things that burnout is not normal. You should not be feeling the way you feel. And just let's just talk about some of the symptoms of burnout.
Mm.
Headaches, constant headaches, irritability. That's how I stay. Someone will say, I'm this way. No, it's not okay. Anxiety. Oh, the job, this is part of it. No, it's not. Depression, being cynical. Nothing that I do is going to make a difference. Those symptoms of burnout, it's not okay. Don't normalize it. Seek help. And that's the first thing you must do. Recognize the symptoms. Those symptoms I just list, and seek help. Whether it be a mentor, a coach, a therapist, the employee health, but you must seek help because burnout is a chronic condition. If left unchecked, could get real bad. Where we've heard some stories where nurses actually ended their life because
Mm. That's
so
sad.
overwhelmed and anxious. Yes.
So what inspired you to actually write the 10 mistakes overwhelmed nurses make?
Well, one of the things I was noticing is, especially this was during the pandemic, I wrote the book, right?
Oh.
I've met a nurse and she was telling me that she did not go to the bathroom for the entire 12-hour shift. And I started to think that would be challenging. I
I'm
said,
telling you, sometimes you
well,
forget.
one of the things I know she was not doing was drinking water because there's no way if you're hydrating that you're going to not go to the bathroom. It's just not going to happen. So this was something she was kept was being busy, but if she had not made a mistake of not drinking water, she would have had to go to the bathroom. It's just one of those things, right?
Mm.
So that's how I look at a mistake. It wasn't an intentional act that she didn't want to go to the bathroom, but because her body was dehydrated, it held on to the fluid. So she didn't need to go to the bathroom. The urge was not there. I know if she was hydrated, she would have gone.
She
She
would
would have
have
found
gone,
a way.
right?
She would have found a way to go.
And sometimes
Uh,
you don't remember you haven't had a sip of water,
exactly. So I talk about, take drink, making sure that you stay hydrated, about snacks, healthy snacks,
Mhm.
having not having those sugar high and then the drop. I talk about a mistake of not taking a break.
So do you think that would be the mistake,
Yes, not
the
taking.
most common mistake people make?
I would say one of the most common mistake I still think is like boundaries because we are a profession of caregivers. And to say I cannot take another shift, it should show that, oh, you don't really care for your staff members. You're not a team player.
I
You're not
know,
a, so I think to me, that's the biggest mistake. People would succumb and say, okay, I'll take a next shift or I'll
I
take,
know.
and when really you're setting yourself up to cause patients sometimes to, get into a situation where you're making a medication error or you're not able to be very reactive because your cognitive ability after 12 hours Well, they said 8 hours. I mean, studies varies, but they said between 12 hours, it seemed to be the new norm. After 12 hours, you cannot be reactive the way you would have earlier. There is a shift in your cognitive ability after 12 hours. So when people work doubles, 2 8 hour shift, let's say, you see the last four is not a safe zone.
Mm. You know,
So
I noticed that sometimes some nurses that have gotten into trouble are the people that pick a lot of hours, and then they think they have it all under control, and then boom, something happens. They get in trouble, and they get
mm-hmm,
fired from the job. You know,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
So
So
so so, what does your empowering nurses through self-care workbook, right? What help do you think nurses um let me frame it this way. So how does your empowering nurses through self-care workbook help nurses to go beyond theory and into daily action?
right, you said it. You actually answered it. It's about action
Yeah,
because
daily action.
what I say in these books, most of it nurses already know. But how do they implement those small daily activities that become routine over time?
Mm,
And the community, because it's done in a group coaching or a workshop setting, the community, I think, is a big support for each other, but just being aware that this is something that is important if I'm going to have a long, healthy nursing career, and if I'm going to be taking care of this body, because you can't give something that you don't have. So you have to be able to, the workbook is help you to really start pouring into yourself, caring for yourself,
mhm.
making self-care a priority, not a second or a third or a last thing that you resort to, but you making it a priority. Yes.
So
And
if an yeah, sorry,
sorry.
you were you saying something? Sorry.
I was saying, like, I just thought about the analogy about the putting on your own mask before
Oh,
helping others that we hear on the airplane all the time.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
it's just one of those things. That's how important self-care is.
That's true.
Hmm.
So if a nurse is feeling so tired to start anything new, what page of your workbook should they begin with? What page do you recommend them to begin with?
You know what? I would say start from the beginning, because the first thing is the awareness.
Yes.
Yes, the awareness. And I definitely where you are right now and where you want to be. And so you start from there. And it's like an assessment. That's where we start as nurses, right? We make an assessment.
Assessment.
Don't go prescribing anything. So the first chapter in the workbook is about a self-care assessment to see where you're
Yes.
at. So we all will be at different places, but you have to know where you are and tailor a care plan, working with the coach, the facilitator who's going to run the program, or, I would be more than willing to facilitate the program. And so come up with a care plan, and everyone on is going to look different.
Do you have something like train the trainer before they can use the guide to teach other nurses?
No, I don't have that. I have the facilitator's guide. And actually, I'm reworking that a little bit, because I looked it over, and the one group that used it, and I got some feedback that I can add a little bit more for someone who did not go through a coaching program.
Okay.
This
Okay.
I think coaching is not like nursing. Coaching is a special discipline or a special profession that is different from nursing.
Mhm.
When you're coaching someone, you're not telling them, you're co-creating a relationship or a partnership with them, and you're really giving them, they're leading the individual you're coaching, they're pretty much leading, but you are co-creating with them, and you're just walking alongside them as an accountability, and you're coming with some thought-provoking ideas that they might have never thought of. Like when I shared with you about
Washing hands.
self, wash your hands, or from one room to the next, that could be a self-care activity, a
That's
reset.
right.
So that's what the coaching process helps. So if someone is not a coach, that's why I call it a facilitator. So, but I need to add a little bit more for people that don't have experience in coaching.
Yes. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So I usually ask this rapid fire questions, right?
Mm.
So what favorite self-care practice? What's your favorite self-care practice?
Gratitude.
Ooh, I love that one.
Dude, yes, yes. And I always think that's how I want to start my day, with mindfulness, but gratitude. Yeah, three things I'm grateful for every day. And the science is behind gratitude. I know we don't have time, but they've studies that have shown that people who are grateful and practice gratitude, how better they manage stress. They also are more active physically, and they're more optimistic about their lives. So gratitude is a wonderful self-care activity.
Audrey, you know what you just said now hit me like, I mean, that's what I practice, and that's what has helped me a lot. You know,
Mhm.
even when I'm going through difficult times, I mean, I read the Bible, right? I love reading the Bible, and
Mhm.
I apply it as much as I can. I always say, do you know this Bible passage that says everything works together for your own good, right? For
Mhm.
them that love God. So what I usually do, and he said, in everything with prayer, supplication, and thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. And that peace that passeth all understanding. So whenever I'm going through anything, I'm waiting on the other end. First of all, it's going to work out for my own good. Second of
Mhm.
all, God is preparing something great for me.
Mhm.
Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plan I have for you. So I always feel God is using all those things to make things beautiful for me.
Yes.
So when you saying that, I mean, it kind of brought those thoughts into me. So what is one word that describes your leadership style?
I would say you said one word, but I'm going
One
to say
word.
servant then. I still
Servant.
want to say
Okay.
servant leadership, but servant would be it. Service.
Service. Okay. And
Mhm.
a quote or affirmation you live by.
Say that, sorry.
A quote or affirmation you live by.
Gosh, I am sufficient. I'm enough.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's powerful.
Mhm.
Next question. Tea, coffee, or smoothie?
Tea, decaffeinated, better, herbal. I love.
Hmm. What kind of herbal tea do you like?
I like turmeric, ginger.
Wow.
Yes.
That's good. All right.
Mhm.
Something surprising about you that most people don't know. Is it something you're willing to share?
Oh, well, I love playing pickleball,
Oh my goodness.
but I got in an accident in November of last
Oh,
year, and I'm not able to play it like before, but pickleball was my thing, and I can't wait to get back to playing pickleball.
oh.
I had a slight rotator cuff tear from the accident, and so I'm unable to, you know, don't want to
Hope you're
rein.
feeling better though.
Yes, I am, but
That's good.
pickleball, I was trying to think if I could start picking it up with my left hand, but I just
Hmm.
decided to take a break, and maybe in a couple of months I'll be able to return.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
oh, I want to really thank you for coming to the show. So if somebody wants to follow you, how would they follow you? Can you share a little bit of your information?
Yes, certainly. On Instagram, my handle is Audrey Boyce 360, or you can follow me at audreyboyce.com. I'm also on Facebook, Audrey Boyce Leadership and Wellness Coaching. And another place to follow me is workingwithaudreyb.com. Workingwithaudreyb.com.
That's good. And then check out her books too for more
Okay.
tools and encouragement, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. So after
Thank
hearing, yeah. So I usually like to have this kind of reflection, kind of make people think about what we just talked about. So after
Mhm.
hearing Audrey's story, I guess the questions you have to ask yourself, what mindset or habit might be holding me back from thriving or holding you back from thriving, then how can I prioritize self-care without guilt or shame starting today? And if someone, question, very important, if something happens today and you're not able to walk, how long can you sustain yourself? Okay? So thank you so much, Audrey, for sharing all these great tips and information. It inspired me, and I know it did for anyone watching. So remember, burnout doesn't define your journey. How you rise from it does. And then take charge, walk in purpose, and never stop growing. So if you enjoy what you've heard today, I encourage you to share the link of this show because it will change someone's life. So if you want more information on how to take charge of your life to prevent or handle burnout or take charge of your finances, send me a message at takechargewithdrchichi@gmail.com. Take charge with Dr. Chichi at gmail.com. Remember, you are more than your job title. You deserve financial security, work-life balance, and a career that fulfills you, not just drains you. Until next time, take care and keep advocating for yourself as much as you do for your patients. Make sure you share this episode with a nurse friend or a colleague. Bye for now, and see you next episode of Take Charge with Dr. Chichi. Thank you, and bye.
Take Charge with Dr. Chichi is a brand of Sparkling Star Development Strategies LLC. The information provided is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or medical advice. Financial services are offered independently by Dr. Chichi in accordance with applicable licensing and regulatory standards. Thank you for watching.